This episode is brought to you in association with Timeform, your trusted source for racing data and analysis. By Total Performance Data, the world leader in thoroughbred performance technology. And by FitzDares. Hello, good morning. It is Tuesday the 29th of July and it's the first day of the Visit Qatar Goodwood Festival. Glorious? Well, not quite at the moment, as you'll see if you're joining us on YouTube today. It's a little damp, a little mizzly, but it's fine. If we could buy this for the rest of the day with David Yates, newsboy from the Daily Mirror, we'd take it, wouldn't we?
Would we?
Just about, yeah. Because I know. Well, given the forecast,
for 5 days?
Not for 5 days, but given the forecast today is for quite a bit of rain in various parts of the country, I'd settle for dry at the moment.
Ed Arkle said mizzly yesterday when
Good
I
word,
rang.
isn't it?
Yeah, I had to. My spell check put a red line under it, and I looked it up.
Did you spell it correctly?
Yes, I did. But it was a bit. I think it said in the dictionary that it was a bit archaic or something. But
okay.
Yeah.
Good. Nothing archaic about you today. Day cravat on.
No,
You've got into the Richmond enclosure.
The very essence of the modern man. Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. The very model of the modern Major General, perhaps.
Indeed.
Right. On to today. You happy to be here?
Absolutely delighted. Yeah. It's a great 5 days. It's a very different 5 days, isn't it? It's not in terms of the quality of the racing. It's not as intense or as not high octane, but as consistently competitive as Royal Ascot, is it? Where there are also 5 days, but it's an incredible setting. I mean, you've travelled a lot more around the world in terms of race courses than I have, but I've not been to a more beautiful setting than this. I think it's just an amazing. It can frustrate you at times. Some jockeys ride it really well, others not so. It always amazed me how Fallon was a master of Epsom and never really got this place right. Kieran Senior, I mean, and but yeah, it's a great place to be. Staying in East Wittering, they wouldn't let me into West Wittering.
West Wittering for our international viewers, listeners. West Wittering is the posh one, yes?
Yeah, they're just
Smart
it's a PO20 postcode, and West Wittering is the sort of slebs hangout, and I don't know if there's any difference.
And they didn't let you in? Did they not know who you were?
It was literally where I'm staying. About 50 yards away is a sign saying West Wittering, and I thought, grrr, I'm just in East Wittering, but it's very nice. Got there in darkness last night, so didn't walk down to the beach and see what it was all about, but it looked very nice.
No more Wittering here. And before we talk about today's racing, serious business. Lord Allen, he's coming. The elusive, mysterious Lord Allen is going to take his post as chair of the British Horse Racing Authority in September.
September the 1st.
September the 1st. That was after a BHA board. Well, tabloidese. Would you call it a summit in tabloidese? Showdown summit.
A dramatic powwow.
Did you call it a dramatic? No, how did the Mirror readers enjoy your coverage of Lord Allen?
Well, they had to wait for it because.
Did they just shut up, Dave, and get on with tipping me the winner of the 345?
Just tip 8 losers and get back in your box would have been their response, I'm sure. It's a bit of a late one last night because this is something that, as you know, in Red Tops we don't write about industry stuff an awful lot. It's horsey, and that suits me fine. But I thought we should cover this because it's
absolutely crucial to the fabric of the sport, isn't it?
And so, in touch with the BHA press guys for most of the day yesterday, saying any idea when we might expect this. 7 o'clock would be handy. I think it came through just after 8 o'clock in the end. I'd written for that particular slot, I'd written a plan B from Galway in case it didn't get in, and in case we didn't get an announcement last night. But yeah, it came through just after 8 o'clock, and it's been I had to check that that when this was actually announced, and it was in November, wasn't it, that Lord Allen would take was unveiled as the chair of the BHA. He was due to start at the beginning of June, and I think that over the last couple of weeks, he's sort of gone. He probably went a shade of odds against, didn't he, to take it?
Oh yeah, I'd say more than a shade of odds.
We did an NLD, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago when the wind was blowing in.
So the compromise here, as we discovered last night, is that there is not going to be a split out in the BHA. It's going to be one single board, but it's going to be a wholly independent board, and there's not going to be a regulator and a governing body separately, which is what he proposed initially. So there's obviously been a bit of horse trading going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the crux of this essentially was how much power the racecourses had, wasn't it? That was the sticking point, and we'll have to see how that plays out now. I'd be lying if I said that the single independent board, how that was going to work out with regard to how much power the racecourses had, etc., etc. But I think I think there are two. Well, there are possibly even 3 aspects to this. One is a sense of relief that we're not just like back to how 8 months ago, November, whereby the chair was announced, that we're not absolutely back to square one. I think most of us whose model for racing is a long-term one, and we've talked about this, that for example, Arena Racing Company get lots of stuff thrown at them. Their business model is very different to lots of other people's. Trainers, their business is not a PLC. It doesn't involve a share price or a dividend. I work for a PLC and I reach PLC. I know how important every year the share price and the dividend and the shareholders is, and what news they can take to the city. It's very important, and it's far more nuanced or complex than just good guys versus bad guys.
I would agree with that.
And I hope, but as someone who isn't himself a PLC and wants to stay in racing for as long as he can professionally, I'm really pleased that this appointment is going through. I suppose there is one more thing to add, and that is, after all this 8 months of will he, won't he, Lord Allen, you better be good.
Yeah, exactly. The pressure's, well, I'm not sure he'll feel it. He's done more important things than run the BHA, but as a light aircraft just takes off from Goodwood Aerodrome, no message behind it,
one of those.
Nothing advertising any gentlemen's clubs in Chichester or anything like that you might get at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby Day. Right, well, the man to whom I spoke first up this morning is the Goodwood Group Chief Executive, Adam Waterworth. He's a racing man through and through. Before he came to Goodwood, he was at Haydock and Doncaster, and he started off as the MD of the racecourse here, and eventually his portfolio grew and grew to the point where he's now CEO of the whole group. And I began by talking to him about Lord Allen's appointment and whether he and Goodwood welcomed the news that emerged around 8:45 last night.
Good news. I think it hopefully means we can draw a line under all of the chat that's been going on over the last, 3 months, and sort of get on with the changes to the sport that Lord Allen's been talking about. And I think, as most of my colleagues have said, the independent board is something I think we all completely support.
And just for those who aren't completely au fait with it, though we have probably talked about it more than people would welcome on this podcast, why would a racecourse like this amazing place be supportive of an independent board and not a member-nominated board?
In my opinion, I think that an independent board gives us the chance to make some decisions and make some changes, and I think the sport needs some changes. There's a few people have said, of course, an independent board might mean that something's happened that we don't fully support, but actually at least something's happening, and I think the sort of vested interest and the complete the state we find ourselves in, constantly trying to sort of walk through treacle in this sport, with those sort of various bodies being able to veto various and sitting on the board of the governing body with vested interests. I just think we've been there and done that. We've got to try and move some things forward, and for me, I think it's exciting times. I'd like to think we get an independent board. Well, what are they saying? Lord Allen starts in September. We get an independent board in place. That will be his first task, if you like, and then I'd like to think we can start making some decisions at the top level of the sport, which I think is something that's been missing for a while.
I suppose one of the whole points of premierisation in the first place. I know that's been rejigged now, and the whole point of Project Pace, which will not replace it but try and find an income stream for the sport by burnishing its brightest assets, is it's encouraging racecourses like this and others to aim up. And talking to Ed Arkle at your last fixture, the last big fixture, that seemed to be very much the way you're thinking, that you want to drive the quality of the race programme up another notch. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that would be the same for us as it would for most of all of the large independents. I think if that ability to, I've always thought personally that if we can lead on the weeks like this, the week that we had at Ascot, which I thought was an unbelievably strong message for that top end of this sport, we'll roll on to York in a few weeks' time, and that those midsummer weeks where I think the sport is at its absolute best, and we still are punching there internationally, and the amount of interest and recognition and unbelievable racing that we can get during these during those midsummer highlights here, I think is something we should be absolutely proud of and lean into. It is that sort of rising tide, isn't it? I think the whole sport will actually benefit from those real top moments punching above their weight.
I mean, you see the balance sheets not just of a racecourse but of a whole sporting estate. You believe that kind of racing can remodel itself to be financed from the top down rather than being a bottom feeder perpetually.
I'd like to think so. Because I don't see what else you do. If those real stars aren't shining brightly, I just don't believe.
What else have we got?
Exactly. What else have we got? How else are we going to appeal to a new audience with? It's weeks like this, our job, weeks like this, and we very much see it as our job, is to introduce new people to this sport and hope they get the passion that I found when I first found horse racing. And that's what Ascot did an unbelievable job of. It's what we'll do this week. It's what York will do, and it's what those other large independents do. That's our job in a way. We are the shop window. We take that seriously, and I think given the chance to really lean into that as a sport, us as large independents, but also as a sport, I can't see why that isn't the answer.
Can we talk a little bit about this week?
Yeah.
And what you personally enjoy most about it? And have enjoyed through your... I don't even want to say how long you've been here now. It's actually been quite a while.
Long time now. It's this bit. It's the racing. It's the horses. It's the sport at its best in these surroundings. There's something, this place, when the sun is shining, it's not quite shining at the moment, but it will.
A little bit of drizzle.
This place, in the summer, with some of the best horses you can see. No, the Sussex Stakes on Wednesday looks like it's going to be an absolute belter. And for me, that's when this sport is at its best, and it's when this place is at its best, and that's what I enjoy the most. I love the game, and seeing horses of the quality that we've got through the week, fighting it out down this straight with that as the backdrop. I'm not sure there's anything quite like it anywhere in the world.
Adam, have a fantastic week. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
All right, that was Adam Waterworth speaking to me a few moments ago. David Yates has rejoined me, newsboy from the Daily Mirror. It's still dry, just a bit of a breeze billowing through the tree behind us. The place looking fantastic, awful lot going on, leaf blowing and window cleaning and just getting the place all spruce, ready for a little later on. We got a Group 1 feature today, bench cleaning, all sorts, yeah. Betting ring just starting to take shape here, all looking good. And there's some fantastic punting races today. The Goodwood Cup has a pretty short price favourite in Illinois. He was second in the Gold Cup at Ascot. Sweet Williams in the race. He was fourth in the Gold Cup at Ascot. Dubai Future was third in that race. We don't have the winner, of course, but we got a hell of a race. And Scandinavia, Illinois' stable companion, adds a fascinating dimension as a strong staying 3-year-old who won the Bahrain Trophy.
I think he does. And he gets a stone, doesn't he? John Gosden, when Stradivarius was mopping up his 4 Goodwood Cups, I think, said how difficult it was to give that stone to the 3-year-olds. And I think Scandinavia might make use of that today. He's an interesting horse, isn't he? Because he's a son of Justify out of a half-sister to the Iron Horse. So we're going back
Causeway, yeah.
almost to the start of Aidan O'Brien's career at Ballydoyle, and obviously with Justify we're up to the last couple of years of him now becoming a very important stallion for Coolmore. But he took 4 goes to get off the mark, didn't he? He was beaten all 3 starts at 2. You'd have thought that with that pedigree, he might be, quite high up in the pecking order to begin with, at least, wouldn't you? But took him 4 goes. His last 2 starts going up in distance has been the making of him, hasn't it? I mean, it looked in the Queen's Vase as though he was really struggling at one point, and he stuck on. I think he was 5th, but he wasn't beaten that far. He's beaten a couple of lengths at the line, and then the Bahrain Trophy, he absolutely ran away with that. He was backed as if defeat were out of the question.
Did you like him today?
Yeah.
Turn over a stable companion?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think he's got a really good. I think he just seems to be a different horse now. He's second favourite for the St Ledger, and the favourite is Lambourne, who may or may not go, his stable companion. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I mean, I didn't pass over. It sounds a bit pompous. I didn't pass over Illinois easily. I mean, there was that in the Gold Cup. There was I thought a really interesting couple of seconds at the top of the straight when Ryan Moore was still going okay on Illinois, and William Buick started to stoke a bit more on Trawlerman, and I thought, watching it live, right, now we're going to find out who stays 2.5 miles and who doesn't. Obviously Trawlerman had run really well in the race before, but he just didn't quite get home over 2.5, did he, Illinois, that day? So coming back to 2 is the right move. There were quite a lot of gruelling races at Royal Ascot, though, weren't there? I know he's had the thick end of it.
Just about had enough time.
Yeah.
Time to recover. One of the intriguing runners in the race is French Master, who was owned by Philippa Cooper, who now owns Sweet William. French Master is now owned by Wathnan Racing. I mean, it is a huge week for them, as Royal Ascot is. There is the connection with the Qatar sponsorship of this event, of course, and it has gone back a long way. Glorious Goodwood is a key summer festival priority for Wathnan Racing. They've got a bunch of runners today, and each and every day we'll be checking in with a representative from Wathnan to go through their card and to try and pick out which of their horses is most fancy. There was one obvious place to start today. That was with the horse that represents them in the Goodwood Cup, French Master, and I asked their representative Richard Brown whether he thought French Master could make the step up from handicapper to Group 1 winner. So every day on the podcast this week, we're going to play the game, Can You Find the Wathnan Winner? Wathnan almost as powerful here at Goodwood as they were at Royal Ascot, this being very much a priority for the Qatar-based operation, whose racing manager in Great Britain, Richard Brown, joins me now. Richard, how big a week is Goodwood for this outfit? How much do you prioritise this?
It's a very big week for us, Nick. It's one of the great festivals. And it's our next major focus after Ascot. As you can see, there's a group of horses here that have been sort of lined up for it, and very big focus.
So you're putting horses on layaway after Ascot, sort of just bobbing and weaving a little bit, so you've got fresh horses for this festival.
Yeah, very much so. I think we made a couple of mistakes, or probably I made a couple of mistakes last year of going to the July week with them. It's a tight turnaround. We did it with a few this year as well, and it worked out okay without us having a winner. But just some of those horses need that time between, and then there's other horses that are going to run this week, which we could have run in the meantime, but we've sort of saved for this.
All right, let's dive into today's big horses then. French Master clearly is the horse for whom you're going to have big hopes in the Goodwood Cup. He's stepping up out of handicaps, but that performance at Ascot was that of a stakes class horse. Just how good do you think he could be?
I'll tell you that this afternoon. We've got really high hopes for him. Whether he can quite get it done today, I don't know, because it is a huge step up. But you had to be impressed with what he did at Ascot. He was extremely strong on the line as well, so I think I'd be pretty confident that the 2 miles will see him in good light. It is obviously a big step up in class, but I think one of the things that's important is he's got course form. He won the mile and 6 handicap back here before Ascot, and seemed to handle the track well. He travelled on and off the bridle, and I think the blinkers have probably made a big difference to the way that he travels. And so I think there's a lot of positives. It's just whether he's good enough is the big question in my mind.
OK, and elsewhere on today's card, you've got a brace in the first, Salawi English Oak. They're both big prices. Do we get involved?
I secretly quite fancy Salawi. Yeah, he was quite impressive in the race before Ascot. We backed him down to a mile there. Didn't really work. Back up in trip, nicely drawn. I do secretly quite fancy him, I have to say. And I know that Hamed's quite sweet on his chances. English Oak's probably not drawn very well, but in a way, it might play to his favours because we'll have to come back and just ride a patient race. We're up in trip. You know, he was very impressive at Ascot last year in the Buckingham Palace, and he really has been a disappointment since his last run was probably his best, and we're going up 2 furlongs. So I would say that's a bit of an experiment more than anything.
All right. Well, you had a very impressive winner of the Chesham Stakes at Ascot, at Royal Ascot, who is out again today in the Vintage Stakes. How important a runner is this for you?
Very, very. Look, it's a prestigious race. It's a very good renewal, I have to say. You know, this does look, it looks very strong. So, no, look, he's unbeaten. Went to Ascot on his second start and won the Chesham. I love the way he did it. I thought James gave him a great ride from the front, get all the fractions right. It's a hard place to do it, do it there because it's a stiff track. He actually felt if he'd gone harder, he'd have been more impressive. He was green in the finish, looking around. It looked to me like there was plenty more to come, and James certainly felt that, if somebody had come to him, he'd have gone away again. We'll find out today how much he's going to battle and find off the bridle, because it's going to be a much stiffer test. Obviously, it's been well documented. The Chesham form doesn't look great at the moment, but you can't change his form, and he did it. He did it well in the Chesham. So yeah, we're obviously very excited about him. He's an unbeaten 2-year-old going into a very prestigious Group 2.
So Humidity in the Vintage Stakes, and then a couple in the Maiden. Now this should be, dare I say it, straightforward for Naval Light, shouldn't it? Though Hamad has a second string for you.
How many runners are there in this? There's about 18, aren't there? 16 or 18.
Plenty of nice ones too.
Or maybe there's not that many, but there's plenty in there anyway. So no, I don't think straightforward is a word I would use. But that Naval Light was impressive. At Beverley, he was very green and finished strongly. He was second there in the Brian Yeardley first time out, and then we ran him in the 5 furlong race at Ascot because we had a couple in the Coventry. Carl always said he was a 6 furlong. Colt, maybe even 7. I think this will see him in much better light, and I would expect him to take a bit of beating. But I think High Approval could put it up to him as well. He's got good form in the book. He's had the 2 runs as well. And I hope that one of them can get that done for us. And
if you are making the phone call later to everybody associated with Wathnan Racing on the conference call, you're saying to everyone here and in Doha and across the world, you've got to tune into one race today because you're going to see those peacock blue and gold and red colours passing the post first. Which will it be? No pressure.
If it was to watch a winner, it would be watch Naval Light. Well, watch the Maiden because we've got 2 very live chances in that. But if it was, if it was obviously to watch one race, you'd be watching French Master in the Group 1.
Richard, thanks so much. We'll speak again tomorrow. All right, so French Master now with Wathnan. That was Richard Brown, of course, their racing manager. We'll be hearing from a Wathnan representative every day. Hamad Al-Jahani, James Doyle will be joining us during the course of the week as well. French Master was owned by Philippa Cooper from Normandy Stud. She's still got Sweet William. You know how we love to call her on this show, and you know how much she loves an impromptu phone call first thing in the morning. As I battle with the commentary test, let's see if I can give her a ring now, shall I? All right, Philippa. Well, we're in this situation again where you've bred 2 horses in a Group 1 race. You still own one, and you've sold the other. And it's your, dare I say, your favourite course, Goodwood. Your one-time local course where you've spent so much time, where you've won the Nassau Stakes. I can't even begin to think what you're feeling at 9:05 this morning.
Well, I didn't sleep last night, and I actually thought I'd be really relaxed about going in because I didn't think that. Williams ran 2 not great races through no fault of his own, but I'm not sort of going there with any feeling that it's going to be his day. And I think it's more of, rather than a Sisyphean task, I think it's more of a Herculean task, in the sense that he's got a mountain to climb, knowing that there's a horse in there, Scandinavia, that's going to be getting a stone from the rest of us. I'm not happy about the wait for age racing when you get to early August. I think it's quite unfair in a way, and Admiral Rouse has got a lot to answer to. But as far as French Master's concerned, he's sort of a new kid on the block. Very quirky, in a different way to Sweet William's quirkiness, but similar kind of way of running, where it's on the bridle and off the bridle, which I like. I mean, that's personally, if I can breed horses like that, that's what I want, because they can get a breather in between, the race, during the race. So if Ascot hasn't taken its toll too much on him, I would think that he's got a fantastic chance.
So do you think French Master's got a better chance than Sweet William then?
Absolutely.
And have you always felt that he's the superior horse in terms of raw talent?
Well, you were at Goodwood that day he ran, and you interviewed me.
And I thought he was a stone-bonking certainty for Royal Ascot, but I think probably I wasn't the only one.
And I thought it was extraordinary. I mean, I know he only won by a head, but what he did in that race was almost as impressive as what he did at Royal Ascot in the Copper Stakes. I just think he's got that speed that Frankel has when he, decides to motor. But it's a question of what has that actually taken out of him, because, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but this is all coming very quickly in his career. And when you sell a horse, obviously you don't have any say in where he should go. And I don't think he would have been doing this if he had been mine. Don't get me wrong about Sweet William. On his day, he's a very, very good horse. But this is a 4-year-old who's on the way up, and Sweet William is a bit like me. We're getting a bit long in the tooth.
I would never dream to talk of a woman's age, Philippa. I feel it would be unbecoming of a podcast like this.
Yes, especially as we had this conversation before you put me on the podcast. But I know, and you'd also want to be able to interview me again, wouldn't you, Nick?
Of course,
So,
of course. I get into awful trouble from Mr. Chapman, who'll be on tomorrow, if I didn't interview you today. So, as he always says, you've got to get Banksy and Coops on the show. So I'm doing as I'm bid. Has Sweet William been a fun horse to own? What's been most enjoyable about being a part of his story?
He's taken me to the most amazing races and racecourses. I mean, he started racing when he's 3 and he's 6 now. And to be able to go to Goodwood on a day like today and run in a Group 1, it's like sitting at the top table. He's just fantastic and consistent. I was very disappointed after the Gold Cup, because it's the first time I've he doesn't reveal his feelings in the sense that he's had a hard race, but it was brutal. He couldn't keep up with Trawlerman, and Trawlerman broke his heart, and it was, it was the wrong tactics. And he's much better just falling out of the stalls, being 8 lengths behind everybody else. It suits him much better. Just been an amazing horse. I mean, how lucky I am. I'm blessed. And I was hoping in a way that I would have had French Master to sort of pick up a baton afterwards. Because to try and breed these horses, it's, they're 5 or 6 year projections from now.
You need to go and buy him back off Wathnan, Philippa.
Yeah. Well, he'll retire back to me afterwards.
Of course.
When there's no use for him. But no, I don't have that kind of money, I'm afraid. Otherwise, I would have kept him.
Well, you've had a lot of pleasure out of these horses. I hope it carries on today. And that Sweet William can put his best foot forward, and French Master can continue to go from strength to strength. I really appreciate you taking the call. I know it's early. I know you've got to get ready to come down to Goodwood, but the good news is you can listen in the car on the way down.
Oh, thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you, Philippa. That was a lovely to hear from Philippa again. Thank you very much, Philippa. A lovely piece you wrote about Philippa in today's Daily Mirror. I'm sure Mirror readers will really enjoy that. And she referenced your classical allusion in the classical reference, I should say, not allusion, classical reference in your first paragraph, which I thought was absolutely spot on. The Sisyphean task.
Yes, that's right. Sisyphus, of course, who upset Zeus, the king of the gods, and then was condemned to roll a rocker a hill for eternity. And when he got to the top, it rolled down again.
Do you think Mirror readers enjoyed that as much as they enjoyed your Lord Allen copy?
I think that it's every media person's part of their brief should seek to be didactic, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. I must say, it was great speaking to Philippa. I think that I said, "Is it a Sisyphean task?" And she said, "I disagree with you there, actually." And it was, I think I said in the piece that she thrives on verbal sparring, and in terms of racing, she punches above her weight. And I think that Sweet William's last 5 defeats have been behind an Aidan O'Brien, or a Coolmore, or a Godolphin, and that just sums up the
task you've got ahead of you,
that she's been facing, and I'm absolutely full of admiration for what she's done. I think it's, to run the stud for 20 years, there have been not one but 2 dispersal sales. She says, I have to break even now. There's a 6-figure sum looking after the horses in retirement. Not it. How many owners can say that? That's outside the absolute mega rich ones. That's some commitment, and it's some example to other owners who are seeking to get into racing.
All right, more from Dave in a few moments' time. Let's hear now from Timeform's Kieran Clarke with his perspective on day 1 of the Visit Qatar Goodwood Festival.
Timeform perspective for day 1 of Glorious Goodwood. Obvious starting point would be the Goodwood Cup. Looks a really fascinating battle between the Ballydoyle pair. Really interesting tactical race as well. No confirmed front runner. Are they going to turn it into a speed test, which will suit Illinois? Are they going to turn it into a stamina test, which will suit the likes of Scandinavia, French Master, Sweet William? So I do think it's going to come down to that, what Ballydoyle want to do, really. I can see Illinois maybe poaching an easy lead, or are they going to send Scandinavia on and try and make it a stamina test? They didn't get the tactics right at Royal Ascot. They didn't quite get them right in the King George. Are they going to get them right in the Goodwood Cup? Really fascinating to see. Scandinavia £3 off top in receipts of that big weight for age allowance. On the undercard, the Lennox, really interesting race. I don't think Audience is going to be able to boss it like he did last year in a small field. They could set it up for Kim Ross, who's won it twice before. Not much between most of these on ratings, but he is drawn wide, as is John Quill. And it could just go to possibly something that a bit bigger odds who's drawn a bit lower. There's loads of pace on in there with Quinault. It's going to be a really well-run race. I think something that just sits off the pace and pounces, it's probably going to suit. So it might set up for a 3-year-old. It might set up for something like a 10 Bob Tony, who won a really strong John O'Gott last time. So 2 really fascinating races to kick-start Glorious Goodwood. And we'll be back tomorrow with an update and a ratings update, and also a bit of a preview for Wednesday's action.
Kieran Clarke with the Timeform perspective. We'll be hearing from Timeform guys all week, and we'll also be getting analysis from Total Performance Data's Adam Mills as the week progresses. David Yates is still with me. Other key stories on day 1 of this Qatar Goodwood Festival, Glorious Goodwood. More 2-year-old success possibly for Eve Johnson-Horton. What a season it's been for her. Zavatiri today, and then Havana Hurricane in the Richmond Stakes later in the week. Yeah,
I mean, their youngsters have had... we're used to saying that about Eve Johnson-Horton now, aren't we? But even by her standards, this has been a good one. Zavateri has that £3 penalty for the July Stakes win at Newmarket. I think that on the negative side, that race was run suit, but on the positive, the 7th furlong will be a benefit to him. I thought Chagrin would go well off top weight in the 3:45. The 5 furlong sprint won the 3-year-old sprint at this meeting last year. Was it last year that Mick Appleby was the top trainer, or was that 2 years ago? I can't. I mean,
I wasn't here last year.
It's rare. I'm sorry. I was that just popped into my head, but certainly. I
tell you who has won at this festival many times before.
John Sean Quinn.
Yes, but Kin Ross.
Oh yes,
who goes for a 3rd win in the Lennox Stakes in 5 years. Amazing horse.
And a 2nd and a 3rd in the other 2, including a very close 2nd. So, that would be remarkable, wouldn't it? I got sucked into John Quill there. I just thought, going back, I didn't think that experiment with the 6 furlongs at Royal Ascot worked. He's obviously won a Greenham over 7. He's won a Poulain everywhere bar the line over a mile. So I thought he was pretty strong there. And Scandinavia.
You like the Goodwood Cup?
Yeah, it's interesting. Gene Murphy, I think he's got lots of good rides this week, and this would be this could be a week where he faces, the press on a fairly regular basis, and
he got a nice welcome from the German media when winning the on Tornado Alert.
Yeah, I'm not being mischievous when I say that, by the way, and people will think I am, but that is an evolving story, and we really, I suppose, will go to the next. It's ever evolving, and now hopefully we can go to the next stage of it. I suppose that's what I mean by that. But he's got some. He hasn't been in the racing spotlight over the last 6 weeks, particularly. Didn't win the King George, although had a very good go at it on Kalpana, and that's just another new strand that could well emerge this week.
Okay, and he of course has got some wonderful rides there, including Jonquil, as you said.
Absolutely.
In the Lennox Stakes with Colin Keane, who would have been riding Field of Gold. Tomorrow, how costly will his ban be? He misses the Cathal Goodwood Festival. Visit Qatar Goodwood Festival, of course. Now, there's a horse tomorrow running, it's Big Price, who I've tipped, called Silver Ghost, trained by Emma Lavelle, who won here very impressively earlier in the season. He's by Phoenix of Spain, who had a stakes winner at the weekend and is the subject of our Bloodstock tour with Weatherbys that we conduct every Tuesday here on the podcast. We go round the Bloodstock world with them, with their Global Stallion app and their excellent Stallion book. And we are now going to connect by the power of YouTube, FaceTime and everything else we can get our hands on with Phoenix of Spain himself and Cathal Beale at the Irish National Stud. So Cathal, this is a bit of a treat. And I think a first for the podcast as well. We've actually got, if you're watching on YouTube, Phoenix of Spain on screen, and he looks a little whiter than I remember him now. The old boy looking quite venerable.
Yeah, I suppose he's turned a whiter shade of pale over the last 2 or 3 years. You remember him as a sort of an off-grey when he was within the Irish Kiddies back in 2019. But yeah, no, it's fully settled into life now as a stallion, and he's happy out there now. He's after covering his 5th season.
And tell me a little bit about how you feel he's progressed at the Irish National Stud and what he actually means to all of you now for the future.
Yeah, well, I suppose he started off as a classic winner, a Group 1 winner, a top-class 2-year-old, obviously, beating a short head in the Group 1 at 2. So he was a really important horse for us as we tried to replace Invincible Spirit, who was obviously, we knew was going to be at the point of retiring pretty shortly. So he's had an incredibly good start. He's been unlucky in one sense to be in a crop of stallions that included Blue Point, that included Too Darn Hot, Study of Man. I think if he was in any other crop, he probably would have been the champion amongst them. But he is really holding his own in that group of exceptional stallions. Just looking at it this morning, he's up to nearly 6% black type winners to runners with his 3rd crop, which puts him, 2 points ahead of Too Darn Hot, 2 points ahead of Study of Man, and 3 points ahead of Blue Point. So he's holding the best of company, and he's actually coming out on top at the moment. So we think he's unbelievably underrated as a 10 grand stallion now. And yeah, look, he's got it all ahead of him. So we're very, very excited about it, really.
It's a very timely interview, Carl, because on Saturday he had a stakes winner, Group 3 winner of the Valiant Stakes at Ascot, Cheshire Dancer. And I've got to say, you've got your trainers well on message. I thought Hugo Palmer did a lovely job for you on ITV Racing afterwards.
Yeah, Hugo, and obviously Ed Stackville would have bought the horse in partnership with Hugo. So they've been huge supporters of the horse. They've had plenty of them. And look, Hugo knows a good thing when he sees it. And, the horse didn't cost a lot of money. And a lot of these Phoenix of Spains can be picked up for really, really decent money. And so many of them are going on to be better 3-year-olds and better 4-year-olds in her case. And proven themselves to be exceptional value when they go to be sold afterwards. We've had so many Phoenixes go on and make over 100 grand, and I dare say she's worth a lot more than that now. She turns up under lights in December in Tattersalls.
Now, Cathal, I don't know who's your camera operator today, but I want to see a bit more of you and a bit more of Phoenix. At the moment, I've got his shoulder and half of your face.
Yeah, you probably want more of him and less of me, maybe. Yeah.
There we go. Look at him. What's he like to be around?
Yeah, look, he's a very straightforward horse. Great temperament. Eats, sleeps.
does his job in the covering shed very well. He's obviously on his holidays now. I remember when I went to see him at Charlie Hills when he was in training. He'd done a piece of work, and by the time we got back down the hill, he was already after eating his grub and falling asleep in the box. That's the type of horse he is.
And tell me what you're hoping for realistically for next year, and what he means to the stud as a whole now going forward.
Well, I suppose he really is the flagship stallion we have now on the roster. If you look at the horses he's had this year, Hatzilla, Group 3 winner, Cheshire Dancer, as you mentioned, obviously has won her Group 3. Hatem, he's an unbelievable horse. He's won 4 stakes, obviously Group 2 winner at 2, stakes winner at 3 and 4. But he's got a load of really progressive handicappers coming through as well. Bobby Vanille, who's just beaten off a mark in 97 the other day. Caballo de Mar, who's entered in the Irish St. Leger, who's won 6 of his last 8 starts and has been a fantastic horse for Victorious and George Scott. And then we've also got a couple of fillies that have been injured that are coming back. Roger Varian has Lady of Spain, who's unbeaten. She's a stakes winner and she's due to run again very shortly. And Alpharaz of Joe Murphy, who was Group 3 placed and looked really impressive early in the season last year. She's waiting for a bit of nice ground in the back end. So he's got a load of really nice horses in the pipeline. And then he's covered a really strong book of mares over the last 2 years. He's got 170 foals on the ground this year. So when they hit the track in another 18 months' time, he's going to have another lift forward. So he's progressing all the time. So it's really exciting to see what he's going to do over the next 4 or 5 years.
Carl, thanks so much for showing him to us today. Lovely to see him looking so well, and all the very best with him. I hope he flies for you. All right, well, it's not just Goodwood this week. It is, of course, Galway as well. We spoke to Jane on the podcast yesterday. Every day she is going to be bringing us her daily update from the festival that began last night and continues sometime into next month. Here she is, Jane Mangan at Galway.
Greetings from Galway. While you guys buckle up to begin at Goodwood, we're already up and running. We got a head start at Ballybridge yesterday on what was an emotional day. Our listeners will know that when Edward O'Grady passed yesterday morning, the Irish racing community was set into a little bit of shock. It wasn't all that expected, 4-time champion trainer, and it meant that proceedings at Ballybridge began on somewhat of a sombre note. There was a lot of reminiscing going on around the track, and whilst the attendance was extremely good, 18,500, up over 1,000 on last year for the opening day at the Galway races, there was a sense of emotion around, and that was before ever we had the first race. The first race went to Davy Crockett, courtesy JP McManus, Willie Mullins and Mark Walsh, but of course he's best known as being the son of Annie Power, brother to Mystical Power, who won that very race 2 years ago before going on to win 2 Grade 1s as a novice hurdler. So follow Davy Crockett to see if he can emulate his brother. We had 2 winning favourites on the night. The other winning favourite was Constitution River for Aidan O'Brien. Constitution River obviously went across to the July course at Newmarket, got narrowly denied by a multi-million-pound breezer of Godolphins, but he made no mistake last night. He reminds me a little bit of Churchill as a juvenile. He's extremely well developed, looked like a 3-year-old amongst juveniles. He made all, but he was extremely green doing so. Constitution River is a very good horse. And that was all before we got to the feature race. Remember now, emotions were already running high. So when Alan O'Sullivan found all of the right gaps up the inside on Filey Bay, the place erupted. The Connacht Hotel Handicap is the feature race on the calendar for amateur riders. It's the most notoriously difficult race to win because you're contingent on draw and luck in running. But as the winning rider told Katie Walsh post-race, he felt it wasn't a coincidence that all the gaps opened up the inside. It's been a tremendously difficult year for the O'Sullivan family. But to have Alan and Michael's dad William there, to do it for JP McManus, of course for Emmett Mullins, partner of Maxine O'Sullivan. The O'Sullivans owned the night. Mist and dampness came in across from the Atlantic, but that didn't dampen any of the spirits. It was the best result that could have been on the night. Filey Bay mightn't have been everybody's selection in the market. He went off 7-1, but he powered up the hill. He's a 7-pound claimer, Alan O'Sullivan, but he's an absolute measure of a man, because the first thing he said was condolences to the O'Grady family, when everybody was just thinking of him and his family. So that was Monday night. We look forward to today. Tuesday, Cullen Quinn BMW Mile, that is your feature race. We kick off with a novice hurdle. It's a listed novices hurdle that was won last year by Gail Mahler, went to the UK, courtesy of Adrian Keatley. We have no UK raiders this time around. And last night, of course, we had the son of Annie Power winning. Could we have Vicar Street, son of Vroom Vroom Mag, win the opener tonight? Let's see. Willie Mullins might just beat it with La Nutra Vert, but it's worth noting that Willie's last 4 favourites in this race have all been beaten. Then you have a beginner's chase featuring King of Kingsfield. We'll all remember King of Kingsfield being used as a pacemaker for Brighter Days Ahead last season. He's now getting his own chance to step forward. He runs over fences. Then we have a 2-year-old maiden that was won 3 years ago by Tahira, classic winning mare Tahira. I think Jessica Harrington's Then and Now, the Dubawi out of Albina, is going to be very difficult to beat after having the benefit of a run at Leopardstown. And then we get on to the 640, which is our feature race. Dunham is a forgotten horse. He's won it twice at the festival. His form figures here at Galway are 1-3-1-3, so don't disregard him. But my selection for the race is Slieve Binion for David Marnan and Luke McAteer. Gone up £13 for 2 recent wins. That's the 640, that's the feature race, and that'll be our last race covered on RT Racing. So whilst you guys have Group 1 action, we'll have all the fun here. For racing fans, this is quite the week. Enjoy.
Jane Mangan there. Dave Yates is still with me here at Goodwood. Dave, all I need is your best winner for day one.
My best winner for day one is in the 305 race, the Al Shakab Goodwood Cup, and it's Scandinavia. An 8.5 length winner, if you please, of the Bahrain Trophy at Newmarket last time. Gets a stone from Illinois, and I hope that will help turn the tables in his favour.
Scandinavia for Dave. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for watching. If you've been joining us on YouTube, we'll be back to do it same time, same place tomorrow. From here at Goodwood, from all of us, it's goodbye for now.
You've been listening to Nick Luck Daily. This episode has been brought to you in association with Timeform, your trusted source for racing data and analysis, by Total Performance Data, the world leader in thoroughbred performance technology, and by FitzDares.